Did you know 3,500 islands guard the North Korean coast, or that one step in a remote northern river can theoretically touch three countries at once? While often viewed through a political lens, the nation's landscape is a brutal masterpiece of jagged peaks and hidden volcanic lakes. This is a land defined by verticality, where mountains dominate and leave only slivers of flat land for millions. From the granite Diamond Mountains to the windswept Roof of Korea, the geography is a series of extremes. Here are 35 wild facts that will change how you see this isolated territory. Fact 35. The accidental Eden of the DMZ. In one of the greatest ironies of modern geography, the demilitarized zone separating North and South Korea has accidentally become a thriving biodiversity hotspot. This 155-mile-long, 2.5-mile-wide no man's land has remained virtually untouched by humans for over 70 years. Because of the minefields and fences that divide the two nations, nature has reclaimed the landscape, creating a 620 square mile sanctuary where rare Asiatic black bears, red-crowned cranes, and even lynxes thrive. It is a place where a man-made divide has allowed the return of species once thought to be locally extinct. Fact 34. The volcanic crown, Koma Highlands. While the DMZ protects life in the lowlands, the topographic crown of the entire Korean peninsula sits far to the north on a massive volcanic pedestal. The Kama Highlands soar to an average elevation of 3,300 feet, featuring peaks that reach up to 833 feet. This expansive area is covered in rich volcanic soils that are ideal for growing potatoes, despite the harsh subalpine conditions. Remote villages here are isolated by altitude, living in a world of thin air and rugged independence that feels worlds away from the coastal cities. Fact 33. The liquid borders of the North Korea's borders are almost entirely defined by the movement of water, specifically the Yalu and Tumen rivers that flow from the base of Mount Paktu. These waterways create 880 miles of natural barriers that serve as both lifelines for trade and stark dividers between nations. While they facilitate massive hydropower projects, they also pose significant flood risks during the monsoon season. During these periods, steep mountain slopes can funnel over 500 million cubic meters of water into the valleys in a single day, reaching terrifying speeds of 15 to 25 feet. Fact 32. Barren hills and geological reveals. The same mountain slopes that funnel water into the river borders have been stripped of their green armor, revealing the country's rocky skeleton. Rapid deforestation since the 1990s has reduced forest cover by an estimated 25%, turning once lush hills into barren outcrops of granite. This environmental shift has exposed hidden geological features, but at a terrible cost. Without trees to hold the soil, erosion rates have skyrocketed to 10 tons per acre annually. It is a landscape that is literally washing away, revealing its rocky underbelly to the world. Fact 31. The salty lakes in the middle of the land. Hidden around the country are salty lakes like Kwangpo, the biggest natural lake inside the land, covering about 5 square miles. When the water dries up, bright white salt crystals appear along the edges and shine in the sunlight. These salty spots feel like tiny deserts sitting right in the middle of wet green land, strange white shores, and calm mirror-like pools surrounded by trees and hills. Fact 30. The disconnected coast of the East. Unlike the broad, merging plains of the West, the eastern coastal plains of North Korea are discontinuous and fragmented. These isolated pockets of habitable land are squeezed between the Sea of Japan and the rugged interior mountains, averaging only 6 to 12 miles in width. With every square inch of land spoken for, these fishing villages have learned to cling to the cliffs. They've carved narrow ribbons of rice and corn into slopes so steep they seem to hang right over the breaking surf. Fact 29. The golden flat fields of Cheryong. In the west, the Cheryong Plain is a huge flat blanket made from river mud over hundreds of years, covering about 200 square miles of smooth, rich ground. It looks like a giant golden green quilt of rice fields and corn with little rivers twisting through it. The sky feels very big here because there are almost no hills blocking the view. Fact 28. The natural fortress of the Rangrims. The Rangrim Mountains in the north-central region act as a natural fortress, funneling winds and weather into unpredictable and often violent patterns. Averaging between 4,121 and 6,562 feet in height, these mountains create significant rain shadows that leave some valleys parched while others are soaked. Historically, the narrow passes through the Rangrims were the only trade routes connecting the interior to the coast, making them some of the most strategically important features in Korean geography. Fact 27. The steep wall of the Taebaek Mountains. Along the east coast, the Taebaek Mountains drop straight and sharp into the sea, making a tall wall of hard rock. Waterfalls like Kuryong Fall crash down more than 240 feet with a loud roar. It feels like the land and ocean are fighting. High cliffs covered in mist stand against crashing waves. Fact 26. A climate of Siberian blizzards and Pacific monsoons. North Korea's humid continental climate is a geography of extremes, unleashing bone-chilling Siberian blizzards in the winter and steamy Pacific monsoons in the summer. This creates annual temperature swings that can exceed a staggering 104 degree Celsius, ranging from 20 degrees in the northern highlands to 86 degrees Celsius on the humid coastal plains. During the rainy season, humidity often peaks at 80%, transforming the rugged mountains into a soggy, mist-covered wilderness. Fact 25. The untapped oil of the Sea of Japan. While the weather above the waves is often brutal, the North Korean shelf of the Sea of Japan hides a massive secret beneath the surface. Estimates suggest there may be up to 500 million barrels of oil lurking in these isolated maritime zones, extending up to 124 miles from the coast. However, due to international sanctions and a lack of modern drilling technology, these offshore fields remain largely untapped, a hidden fortune waiting in one of the world's most restricted waters. Fact 24. The empty frozen north. Up in the cold northern areas near China, tall mountains and thick pine forests stretch for miles with almost no people. Tiny villages hide on the few flat spots. Above 5,000 feet, everything feels quiet and lonely. Just wind, snow, dark green trees, and open wild land as far as you can see. Fact 23. The wild rides of steep rivers. Because the population is clustered in the lowlands, the rivers that flow from the mountains are largely untamed, steep, and packed with rapids. Rivers like the Taedong, which is approximately 273 miles long, power massive hydroelectric dams but are prone to dramatic flooding during the monsoons, with drops that can exceed 328 feet per mile in the uplands. These are not lazy, navigable waterways. They are wild rides that only flow strongly during the seasonal melts or heavy rains, carving deep canyons into the granite landscape. Fact 22. Volcanic forces of Mount Pektu. Mount Pektu is so volcanically potent that its past eruptions have blanketed the surrounding region in vast basalt lava plateaus that look like eerie, high-elevation badlands. The Millennium eruption around 946 AD was one of the largest in recorded history, ejecting ash as far as 62 miles away and forming the current caldera. Today, the landscape around the peak is a scorched earth reminder of the power hidden beneath the state's most sacred mountain. Fact 21. The tri-border tangle of the Tumen. The Tumen River, originating from the slopes of Mount Pyeongtaek, forms a rare tri-border where North Korea, China, and Russia meet. Theoretically, a single step in the right place could land a person in 3 different countries, though the area is heavily monitored. Flowing 324 miles to the Sea of Japan, the Tumen is shallower and more prone to flooding than the Yalu, and it remains locked in ice for up to 5 months of every year. Fact 20. A mountain of mineral riches. While the rivers define the borders, the mountains themselves are filled with a hoard of mineral riches that make North Korea a geological powerhouse. Hidden within the rugged terrain are massive deposits of high-grade iron ore, coal, tungsten, and gold. The Musan mine alone holds over 200 million tons of iron ore, while the Anju region sits atop vast anthracite coal fields. These minerals are the lifeblood of the nation's industry, though extracting them from such remote and steep areas remains a constant geographic challenge. Fact 19. The Mississippi-sized territory covering 46,541 square miles, North Korea takes up about 55% of the total landmass of the Korean peninsula. Despite its outsized presence in global news, it is geographically quite small, just a bit smaller than the U.S. state of Mississippi. Because 80% of that land is rugged mountains, only about 20% of the entire country is actually suitable for cultivation, forcing the nation to farm every available inch of the valleys. Fact 18. The divided spine of the Nongnoms. Just as the state is limited by its small size, its interior is physically divided by the Nongnom Mountains, which slice through the country like a spine. This range stretches 186 miles from north to south, averaging nearly 5,000 feet in height. By dividing the eastern and western slopes, the Nongnoms create 2 wildly different climatic zones. They act as a wall that blocks moist air from the Sea of Japan, leaving the western side of the country significantly drier than the east. Fact 17. The Diamond Mountains of Mount Kumgang. Mount Kumgang, located in the Taebaek Range, features sheer granite cliffs plunging, canyons, and cascading waterfalls so dramatic they look like they were carved for a fantasy film. Known as the Diamond Mountains, this area contains over 12,000 unique stone pinnacles and peaks that reach up to 5,374 feet. These valleys, like the famous Manmulsang, were sculpted by ancient glacial activity, creating a natural amusement park of stone and water. Fact 16. The wild power of autumn typhoons. Every early fall, huge storms called typhoons rush in from the ocean with crazy wind and heavy rain. They flood valleys, change the shape of bays, and whip the sharp coast into foam. In just a few hours, the whole land looks different. Trees bend, water rises fast, and dark clouds swirl everywhere. Fact 15. The mystery of the warmer East Coast. In a strange geographic quirk, winters on the east coast of North Korea are consistently 5 to 7 degrees warmer than those on the west coast. This happens because the Sea of Japan acts as a giant heat sink, moderating the coastal temperatures, while the west coast faces the full, direct blast of Siberian winds across the Yellow Sea. This temperature gap leads to much heavier snowfall on the eastern slopes of the mountains, creating a distinct winter environment on each side of the Nangnam Spine. Fact 14. The Ice Age winds of Chunggang. The town of Chunggang holds the record for the coldest temperature ever recorded on the Korean peninsula, a bone-chilling 46.5 degrees. In this northern highland region, Siberian winds are so strong and cold that they turn the winter months into a literal ice age. Temperatures here frequently dip below 20 degrees Celsius, a sharp and brutal contrast to the relatively mild coastal regions, just a few dozen miles to the south. Fact 13. A biodiversity blend of 3 ecoregions. While the northern winds are freezing, they also help define the boundaries of 3 unique ecoregions that blend together in North Korea. The country is a transition zone between Central Korean deciduous forests, Changbai Mountains mixed forests, and Manchurian mixed forests. This overlap supports over 3,500 plant species and a variety of animals, including the Korean pine and the Asiatic black bear, with the biodiversity of each zone dictated by the specific altitude and latitude of the mountains. Fact 12. The marathon-length border with Russia. North Korea's smallest international border is a tiny strip of land only 11 miles long that connects it to Russia. This border is shorter than a standard marathon and is defined by the Tumen River as it nears the Sea of Japan. This short land bridge includes a tri-point with China and is marked by several bridges that connect North Korea to Russia's Far East, serving as a vital but narrow window for trade and transport. Fact 11. The frozen highway of the Yalu. The Yalu River is North Korea's longest at 491 miles and carves the majority of the natural border with China. Originating from the sacred slopes of Mount Paktu, the river drops over 2,625 feet in elevation as it heads toward the Yellow Sea. While it is navigable for most of its length and powers massive hydroelectric dams, the river becomes a frozen highway in the winter, locking solid enough for people to walk across the international border. Fact 10. The secret caves under the ground. Deep below the mountains are giant limestone caves like Tongyongul. Some stretch over 3 miles long with rooms as tall as a 15-story building. Water drips from pointed stone icicles hanging from the ceiling. Inside, it's dark, quiet, and full of sparkling crystals and huge empty spaces that feel like another hidden world. Fact 9. The lofty isolation of 600 meters. The average elevation of North Korea is a lofty 969 feet, 600 meters, significantly higher than most neighboring nations. This high elevation gradient creates mountain barriers that isolate the interior and cause rivers to flow with extreme speed toward the coast. These elevation differences create distinct microclimates where you can move from alpine tundra to steamy coastal lowlands in the span of a single afternoon hike. Fact 8. Reclaiming the ocean for rice. While the mountains isolate the interior, the western coast has found a way to create flat land where none existed by reclaiming massive tidal flats. These flats, particularly around the Taedong River estuary, experience massive tidal ranges of up to 20 feet. By building seawalls and draining the silted bays, North Korea has turned these ocean edges into fertile rice paddies. It is a desperate but impressive feat of engineering in a country where flat, arable land is a rare and precious resource. Fact 7. The Mariner's Nightmare Coastline. North Korea's coastline is a jagged, indented stretch of 1,250 miles that is a nightmare for mariners but a paradise for rocky island explorers. The coast is dotted by 3,579 islands, most of which are rocky, uninhabited, and surrounded by treacherous currents. While the east coast features deep water harbors like Hamhung, the west coast is defined by shallow, silted bays that are heavily influenced by the extreme tides of the Yellow Sea. Fact 6. Geothermal Rogue. 124 hot springs. Despite having no active volcanoes or major earthquake zones, North Korea is home to 124 hot springs that bubble up across the landscape. Many of these springs, such as those in Gyeongsang, reach temperatures of up to 176 degrees, reflecting the geothermal activity occurring far beneath the tectonic plates. Historically used for therapeutic baths, these springs are a geological surprise in a region that is otherwise considered tectonically stable, proving that the earth beneath the mountains is still very much alive. Fact 5. The green wilderness of steep slopes. Over 70% of North Korea is blanketed in dense forests that cling to impossibly steep mountain slopes. This green wilderness remains surprisingly intact in the high elevations, where the terrain is too rugged for even the most desperate logging. These forests of broadleaf and coniferous trees provide one of the last remaining habitats for elusive predators like the Siberian tiger and the Amur leopard, which roam the remote northern borders near China and Russia. Fact 4. The roof of Korea, Kayema Plateau. While the forests provide cover, the Kayema Plateau stands out as a massive open tableland known as the Roof of Korea. This basaltic tableland averages between 3,000 and 5,000 feet in elevation and covers roughly 15,404 square miles. It was formed by ancient lava flows from eruptions at Mount Pektu, creating a unique, wind-swept highland covered in coniferous forests and alpine flora that have adapted to the harsh, high-altitude conditions. Fact 3. The Portal to Heaven, Lake Cheonji. Mount Pektu, the country's highest peak at 9,003 feet, holds a massive crater lake in its summit that looks like a portal to another world. Known as Heaven Lake, Cheonji, this pristine body of water spans 3.7 square miles and reaches depths of 1,060 feet. Fed by hot springs and surrounded by jagged volcanic peaks, the lake is the center of countless Korean myths and legends, standing as the spiritual and geographic heart of the entire peninsula. Fact 2. The dominance of the heights. Every single mountain on the Korean peninsula that is taller than 6,062 feet is located exclusively in North Korea. This gives the nation a total monopoly on the peninsula's high-altitude peaks, including the sacred Mount Pektu. This dominance of height is what gives North Korea its average elevation of 600 meters, which is significantly higher than the relatively flatter terrain of South Korea. Fact 1. The hidden deep valleys. Between the tall mountains lie narrow, shadowy valleys that twist like secret paths through the rock. Mist often fills them, hiding small villages and fast rivers at the bottom. These deep cuts are the only flat places in a country that mostly goes straight up. Long, winding corridors squeezed between giant stone walls. North Korea is a landscape of profound contrast, where the brutal cold of the north meets the steamy monsoons of the south across a spine of granite and basalt. It is a place where nature has found a way to thrive in the gaps between human conflict, creating a geography that is as beautiful as it is forbidding.